Hi there, this is Jeff Blake, and I want to welcome you to website wireframing with HTML5 and CSS3. I hope you're ready to jump into this world of website wireframing. Now, before we get started, if you want to follow me along lesson by lesson, and this course has been built for you to follow along and be a hands-on course, then make sure that you download your course's project files. They should download as a zip file. And once they finish downloading, of course, you'll need to double-click on the zip file to extract them, and that should give you your project files. All right, good stuff. I hope you're ready for it. Let's jump into website wireframing. Now, I got to start at the beginning. Do you know what wireframing is? I'm assuming you do, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here together. But just to make sure that we're all on the same page, essentially wireframing is the process of building structural containers. Imagine rectangular blocks to build your web layout. So a wireframe is an empty skeletal structure that outlines or illustrates exactly how your web layout is going to be built. There's going to be no design other than things like widths and heights and basic structure. Okay? So design, which I define as typography, color, and imagery, is going to be applied on top of this skeletal wireframe structure. I hope that makes sense. Think of your wireframe as an architectural blueprint. Sometimes when I'm trying to describe this to people, I'll say, picture the layout of your house or picture the layout of your apartment. No paint on the walls, no furniture, no carpeting, just the structure, right? And then you and I are going to design what goes inside that structure, what color to paint the walls, what furniture to use later on. Let me show you a quick example of this. Here's a skeletal wireframe structure that we have here. Again, note, there's no design. There's widths and heights on objects. There's some structural organization, but other than that, there's no design. The design, again, is what gets applied on top of the skeletal structure. So once again, things like photography, textures, typography, things like that, colors, and so on. That's how it works. That's the idea behind wireframing. Now, a question that I want to tackle right off the bat here with you is why even bother wireframing in the first place? Why not just jump into the design? Well, would you jump into designing your living room before you build your house? Would you start picking paint swatches and furniture before the construction crew has even shown up? No, you got to build the structure first, right? So wireframing is a very important first step in the web design process, and it allows us to plan our layout according to how we want users to process the information. Now, think about that just for a second. You can determine and plan out how you want visitors to process the information. So you want to have things like calls to action laid out throughout the layout. You want to have important information inside headings, large graphics up towards the top. Perhaps further down the page, you'd get into things like FAQs and testimonials, things like that. These are all things we need to think about. And wireframing is going to help us work out our layout, and it's going to force us to make layout choices without confusing the issue with things like typography and photography and colors and so on. So I hope that makes sense. So there you go. There's a little bit of upfront information for you related to what wireframing is and how it fits into the overall design process, and also why we would want to be bothered wireframing in the first place.